Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Wheel of Time. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we got introduced to Swan, the Emerald seat, which is interesting because it is the literal throne, but it also is it's a throne, the title of the seat, and also the title of the position, and the person gets called that. So that's kind of interesting. I guess it's almost kind of like a Ra's al Ghul thing. You become the new Ra's al Ghul once you kind of taken control of things and become the new demon head and stuff. Yada yada. It kind of works almost in a similar manner. But we got to introduce to her in a young age. She was living kind of a simple life of her dad, and her dad knew that she could channel, but he noticed that as time is going on, she got more stronger and stronger of like how she could like untie knots and tie knots for him because he lost his hand. And it's like, right, let's not do it too close to the village. But by the time they came back from fishing, their house was burned down, and there was a symbol drawn, and I don't know if that symbol was supposed to be indicative of like what it was supposed to be, whether that's supposed to be like a group like the White Cloaks, like was this like the early days of them? Like how long have the White Cloaks been around? I guess for maybe as long as the Aes Sedai have been around, or maybe who knows? Because it does seem like more recently the Aes Sedai are not feared like they once were at one point in time. Because the dragon reference, like, do you know why I was able to do what I did? Because the further you get from the tower, the less people are afraid of the Aes Sedai, because people used to fear you guys, shake their boots. Like 100 years ago, me doing what I did, questioning, saying that I was going to come to the tower and usurp your throne and take it from you, I would have been killed on the spot for even thinking that. But I, in a year's time, got an entire army to follow behind me, so you guys aren't as powerful as you think you are. Like, he's saying that even if you stop me, that there's so many other people who feel the same way who will rise up and challenge you. But Suan decided, like, oh, I'm not going to kill you. In fact, I'm going to let you live, because you're up here spilling all this venom and hate, because he's like, oh, just like when I speared, Corinne against the wall. But she's like, no, I know what you're doing. You want us to kill you. He's like, no, you're not going to get off that easy. You're going to be the prime example to anyone who claims to be a false dragon. You're basically going to be locked up. You're going to be poked and prodded. Like, we're going to keep you alive. And he's like, no, kill me. Because the heart-wrenching thing about it is he was gentled, meaning that the power to channel, because it seems like once that's taken from you, there's no getting it back. Because I guess it's like you get one shot at being connected to the one power, and if that connection's ever severed or lost, you never get it back. Because I would be like, wouldn't you be worried with him being alive that he could tap into it again? But I guess once they've gentled you, they've basically put, like, I guess a curse on you that makes it so you could never get the power back. It's like the curse is bad enough when you're going to go mad, but it also seems like, right, you're eventually going to go mad. I don't know whether it's the poking and prodding and treating you like an object to be paraded around. Is all that going to eventually drive you insane? Or is it that the progress, that the madness from the power, because I wondered, like I said, like, does your sanity ever recover over time? It's based on what Swan says, it sounds like it will continue to decrease. Like, even though you're going, like, there's just been so much damage that the madness will eventually fully consume you regardless. So it seems like it's inevitable. So that's why most people just straight up, like, end up killing themselves, like the guy Tom was talking about, like his nephew. So, but it is kind of sad to know, like, Swan didn't want this position. She ended up coming to the tower because she had nowhere else to go. Her dad sent her here to be safe because her hometown is like, it's not safe for you here, And that plays, interestingly enough, with the whole conversation she has with, like, Egwene and Nynaeve, which, obviously, circling back, rewinding a little bit, we have Liandrin, Alana, and Moraine have all been summoned before the Emerald seat. Lo and behold, one of them, I think I was looking at her name, it's Leanne. She's played by Jennifer Cheon Garcia. Best thing I know her from is Van Helsing, where she played Ivory. I said, hey, side note, I didn't remember apparently she was in Supergirl at one point in time, because some of, like, her stuff, photos on IMDb are from, like, from that, and I'm like, I didn't remember that. She apparently also saw some photos of her from the 100. I'm like, I didn't remember you were in the 100 either. That's crazy, because I know she recently popped up in an episode of Batwoman a couple episodes back. So I was like, oh, cool. Which is interesting because there's like a Comic-Con picture with her having a bat symbol on her chair. I was like, yeah, that worked out interestingly enough, didn't it? But regardless, I went on that little tangent, but I was like so excited to see her. I had to be like, wait, is that her? And I looked at IMDb, it sure was. I was like, that's so dope. Once again, I love that feature so much. Oh, I love that. I wish I had it for everything I was watching. Because someone like me who like, oh, what do I recognize that actor from? I always get that, so like I always have to do some Googling. Like it's always easier if you just go, ooh, hit that up button, X-ray. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. But aside from that, I gush about that feature all the time. I talk about it all the time, but putting that aside, obviously it's a conversation about like, right, he was supposed to be brought before them, and you know, things were supposed to be handled differently. I think it's so interesting that Leandrin like speaks so frankly, but then even she has to go like, sorry, mother. I guess it's like the Emergency, like the leader gets called mother, even though you're not technically mother, but you're in the position of a mother. You, all of the Aes Sedai become like your children, essentially. It's just, I guess, a byproduct of the power and position. That, I guess, the original maybe Amaranth seat is the mother to all Aes Sedai, and it's just like that position and kind of role passes down to all future Amaranth seats. We don't really know the ins and outs of how it works, because obviously, like, we know she eventually worked her way up, because we did hear that she used to be a blue, which is interesting. But Leandrin, you know, is trying to say, like, she had no choice but to do what she did. And then Alana's like, yep, she had no choice. And then, like, Moraine looks at Alana, and then, like, Moraine kind of follows suit. But boy, oh boy, despite that, did not take long for Leandrin to be like, yo, but shouldn't you be asking Moraine what she's up to? It's like, yo, Moraine had to laugh, be like, are you, what is your damage, lady? Like, what are you trying to do? And even one of the other blues, what is it, Morgan, she was like, no, like, blues are meant to be, what they're supposed to do is gather information, but Leandra's trying to use that against her, being like, the fact of the matter is, there was all that Trolloc invasion in the Two Rivers, even though she's supposed to be gathering information. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Like, shouldn't she have, like, seen, like, a lot of the attacks, even this false dragon popping up? She didn't. So, like, because she's been in and out of the tower for the past 20 years, but for the past 2 years, she's been completely away from the tower. So Leandrin's like, so, Moraine, what have you been up to? And that puts things in perspective, like, whoa. So, I was like, and even, Siwan is asking what she was doing, and I was like, oh, not even the Amaranth seat knows what you are up to? I'm like, yo, this is top secret, because I thought the other blues knew, but I'm like, why? At first I was like, are you not going to tell, like, why are you going to not tell them? That's what I didn't get at first, because I was like, this is something that's pertinent to all of them, so why wouldn't you say anything? But maybe it's because Moraine knows that if the tower finds out about the dragons, they'll handle it a little bit differently, because the way prophecies and all that aside, it seems like only a certain amount, it seems like Siwan and Moraine are the only ones who know about the actual prophecy. It seems like maybe everyone else is ignorant to it. So it's like, right, if we fill them in on that, because everyone's going to be worried, wait, the last dragon literally broke the world. We can't take that chance again. So maybe they'll lock up the actual dragon or try to kill them. I don't know. We see what they're doing to false dragons, but what would they do? Like, would they, I'm curious, like, why keep it a secret then? But Moraine was like, it's not that I won't tell you. It's like, I cannot tell you. And it's like, right, Kisti, like, I'm the one with all the power here. How dare you disobey me and the rules and stuff like that. They see Leandrin kind of getting all, like, high and mighty and puffy about it, like, so excited. They didn't cover it all, but we do see there are extra colors that haven't really been displayed, like, what they are. Because obviously we have the reds, the blues, the greens, and the yellows. But we also had white, kind of darkish grays, and browns, if I'm not mistaken. So, what those all represent, I don't know if anyone there, I feel like if it and that's probably not including the novices, which were probably like the 8th. I don't know if they actually have a specific color, if anyone in that room was like a novice. I'd assume not. I'm assuming everyone there are like the 3 head honchos of every respective. probably like the leader of the blue, like, you know, the person who was sticking up for Moraine, she's probably the leader of the Blues, and the other two with her are like her right hands. So it probably works like that. Like, oh, here's the top dog, and then here's the second and third in command, or maybe they just as a trio represent the like Triforce essentially of their respective colors. But it was interesting knowing like, oh, it goes beyond just the red, yellow, green, and blue. But the moment they were leaving, Alana was like, "You need to ask her for forgiveness and stuff like that." Which even Lorraine's like, "What? Really? No." And he confronts Lorraine, and Lorraine's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you thought just because you'd have my back that I was going to have yours? Huh? Get ready for whatever your secrets are to be dishing out your punishment tomorrow." So she's got that to deal with. Her and Lon ended up tracking down. They found out what Nynaeve was up to. I was wondering if it's Loyal that sold them out, or is it just probably because like Nynaeve underestimated the White Tower's connections, Moraine's network. So she found Rand and Matt, and so Rand tried to stand in the way because he was scared about he knew what was going to happen. He's like, right, don't let those at the White Tower find Matt. But then Moraine drains, she's like, "Oh, you stupid boy," because he stole that dagger. So it seems like the dagger was playing a part into what this was about. Because I was wondering if it was just, like, it seemed pretty interesting that it, like, came to him, and I was like, because it seemed like the way they were making the conversation seemed like it was just naturally him. But Moraine pulled the darkness from him. I mean, hell, it even went to her mouth. It looked very Venom-esque, symbiote-esque, and it went to the dagger. And so, because Matt was kind of accepting his fate, but he was also in a deranged state. But Rand ended up thanking her, which, once again, he's the one that distrusted her the most. Some others had their reservation, but he was the most vocal about his distrust of her. But he was thanking her, and she was like, right, I would do what I needed. I would have done that for any of you. He's like, well, you could just say you're welcome. But it's like, is Matt going to be okay? Because that's the reason why he channeled. But Moraine's like, honestly, he's way stronger than he has any right to be. Because if he was any weaker, if he was just a regular person, then with that dagger, it would have consumed him weeks ago. Since he's been like this for a month, it means like there's still the potentiality that wasn't just a dagger. Because he was feeding off the dagger just like the dagger was feeding off of him. It was kind of a symbiotic relationship. It actually fits very nicely with the symbiote comparison I was kind of making before. But yeah, so it's like you got to keep an eye on Matt because he may channel again. But she kind of like tore Nynaeve a new one because it's like, right, you and your pride, instead of trusting me, because Nynaeve, next to Rand, she's been the most like anti-Moraine, which is so interesting considering you're like so pro Lon, and it seems like that's a package deal. You accept Lan, you kind of have to accept Moraine, but it's like now you don't trust her. But it's also because like he's a warder, so she's warmed up to him a little bit more. That's why like obviously she spent time around the campfires with them. She doesn't trust the Aes Sedai just because of like her mentor, the wisdom that taught her, the way she was treated, and it's just like she doesn't look at the Aes Sedai as good people. It's like you're power hungry, power tripping bastards essentially. But it's like, yeah, like, you're supposed to be a wisdom, right? Then use some of it for yourself. And it's like, ooh, burn. Moraine also ends up finding out about Egwene and Perrin. Egwene brought back all those rings. It's like, right, Voldemort will never do anything to hurt your sisters again. I don't think he's dead. He's severely injured, but he's not dead. I mean, we saw him kind of squirming and flinching in pain last time, but, you know. But she does let Moraine know about Perrin's situation. It's like, yeah, his eyes glowed, and she's like, what? What else happened? So Wolf showed up, but he didn't seem afraid of them and his stuff. It's like, right, don't tell anyone in the tower about this. They will kill him. So it's like, once again, everyone in this group is something. Like, I think, once again, it got brought up last episode by Loyal. It's like, but Rand's definitely got to be of some AO descent. Matt's got some circumstances of his own just because he is borderlining on the level of becoming a new false dragon or potential dragon, whatever the case may be. He's in that channeling mood. Egwene is tiptoeing her way towards it. Nynaeve already burst the door open. Perrin's got like some kind of potentially changeling, lycanthrope, werewolf, whatever thing going on with him. So, once again, like, and that's what throws Moraine off too, because like the prophecies were so inconsistent because it's a 3,000-year-old prophecy. It's like, we don't know in what shape or form, whether it be he or she, that the dragon will take on, and like what their power will manifest itself as. Now, she's aware of Perrin, she's aware of Egwene, she's aware of Nynaeve, because Lorraine tried to throw that in, Leandri tried to throw that in Moraine's face of like, right, she didn't tell us about Nynaeve. It's because honestly, she's like, I suspect it, but even she was like, I didn't think because she didn't think much about Nynaeve because Nynaeve is outside of the age group. Matt, Perrin, Rand, and Egwene are all around the age range to be the dragon, but not Nynaeve. But now she's still in contention for that, so it's like, it doesn't, So she kind of got thrown for a loop with that. Some clarification, like I brought up earlier, like I initially was thinking like, oh, like let's see, like I said, Morrigan, or is it just Morian? I'm butchering her name. The blue that was talking to Moraine. Like I brought up earlier, I thought she knew. It's like, nope, she doesn't know. Literally no one in the tower until we find out who else in the tower actually knows. But it seems like at first you're like, wow, no one knows what you're doing. I'm like, why are you keeping this so top secret? And even to the point she was like, right, from now on you need to stay in the tower. It is your home. But later on she has a little sneaky rendezvous. And the moment she was like, because like Lan knows, which I thought was interesting. I was like, well, to be fair, I guess like, because Lan's relationship with Moraine isn't like that. It seems like a ward and their Aes Sedai and their ward can have that relationship, but it doesn't always seem like that. I mean, obviously you have Alana with her two warders, so I don't. But like I said, I just don't think Moraine and Lan had that type of relationship. He was even like, "Yeah, you blocked your presence from me." She's like, "Right? Did I have you worried?" And he's like, "Please stop doing that, because the tower's too dangerous. Because so much has changed in the past 2 years. It's like enemies are everywhere." It's what the Blue was trying to warn Moraine about. Like, yeah, like it's just like, man, like how like backstabby this place is. And I mean that's Leandrin, but also like Leandrin's the main culprit with that because she's gaining a lot of power influence, because even Moraine brought that up last episode. Because we don't see anyone else in the tower be as like slippery and as slimy as Leandrin is. I mean, maybe she has her own circumstances for being like that, but we have Moraine going off to her rendezvous with Swan, and you're like, oh, ooh. It's like interesting. She's like, oh, forgive me, mother. She's like, oh, I can't stand it when you call me that. I'm like, it probably is weird when you have your lover literally call you mother. I guess it's on the same way people are like, oh, don't, like, the whole daddy or mommy conversation when it comes to like your partner. Yeah, it's of that same vein. It's like, yeah, what? But it's also like, right, I got to keep up appearances because, no one can know about us. And even that line of Moraine being like, on your knees, and Swan, and you're like, yo, sexy time. It's like, hell yeah, dude. I was like, that surprised me because I was so certain it was going to be like the Moraine and Lan situation, but to find out like, oh, you're sleeping with, which is weird to say your mother, but the person that you love is kind of like in the high seat, and you're not supposed to let anyone know about that, because it turns out like it's like once you've taken a throne, it's the throne and nothing else. You're not supposed to have a love or anything, which also makes me wonder, like, outside of like Aes Sedais and their wards, is there anyone else inside? Like, are there other Aes Sedais hooking up with Aes Sedais, or is that kind of a weird thing? I don't know. That's kind of an interesting conversation with this, but it turns out, Moraine isn't the only one that knows the truth. Swan is too. Like, once again, I brought up earlier, like, they're the only ones who heard the actual prophecy. But, like, Moraine was like, maybe the prophecy was wrong, because she's like, I found 5 potential people. Initially, it was only 4, and then Nynaeve presented the power, even though she wasn't in the same age group, so we can't knock her out of contention. And it's like they had their thing about, because at first, Moraine was wondering whether or not the power of the dragons actually split between them, which it's like, no, the last dragon was definitely only one person. Like, why would it manifest in as 5 different souls this time? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But Moraine's like, we're going by like a 3,000-year-old prophecy we don't know much about. We were there, but even then it's just like, it could have been wrong. Like, Moraine's like, I thought I knew so much, and now I know so little, because this goes against everything that they think they know, because but it turns out the Dark One is in a weakened state now, so they have to strike now, so you have to find out who's the dragon and send them out, but it's like, we don't know which one it is. Well, bring them all in front of the Dark One, and the dragon will reveal itself and kill them, but it's like, Moraine's like, if you do that, you know that the other four will pretty much be killing themselves, and obviously she doesn't want to do that, because I think it is this thing of she has come to care for each and every one of them, because before they were strangers to her, but now she's gotten to know their personalities and who they are as people, so she's a little more protective of them, or maybe she has her own ulterior motives for being protective of them, but I wonder what made them decide to do this, Swan and Moraine, like why they've been doing, like this has been their secret for the past like maybe 20 years, because that's how long Moraine's been doing the in and out. So it's like they had to have been in the, Swan had to know the truth, so they've been keeping this secret for that long. Cause Moraine suggested, like, why don't we bring the rest of our sisters in on it? But it's like, we can't, because will be stilled. I don't know whether that's like you'll be stuck in a form of stasis as punishment, or like, is it supposed to be like equivalency of like death, like the heartbeat for like it is a form of stasis, but closer to death type of state. I don't know what that necessarily entails, being stilled. But Moraine suggests to Swan, it's like, you'll have to banish me as punishment, because if you punch me a little bit, I'm going to be forced to stay here, because like the person who's giving her the orders is the Blue, and like what she says has sway over Moraine, so she's ordering Moraine to stay home. Like there's nothing Moraine can do to go against that. If she goes against that, that's be breaking another rule. So when the time comes, she brings Nynaeve and Egwene there to talk to Swan, even though Swan doesn't want this, because she's like, I thought we finally, like, I didn't know we had such little time together. She was like hoping that they have so much more, but and Moraine was kind of like, yeah, obviously that's how the world works, kind of like you think you have a lot more time than you do. And Swan, it's like, right, you'll be back by my side whether it's in this life or the next, which I thought was really sweet. That is the thing of like, yeah, like the only moments they could catch with each other is anytime Moraine came back and over those 20 years, but obviously for the past 2 years, she's been completely out of the tower, so that's gotta suck. Like, at least before you had stolen moments in between, this was like your last time together. First time together in 2 years, and it might be the last one for a while. But I love that Leandrin overheard them talk about Matt. It's like, oh, he's from the same place. Oh, his buddy Rand, Nynaeve, and Perrin and Egwene. And then I love Moraine comes over. It's like, you will shut your mouth or I'll tell your sisters about that guy you got. You know how they will react. It's like, oh. So even though she's kind of presents herself with the anti-man thing, because I think it comes with the trait of being a red. Oh, she's got someone on the side, which might not be a slab of meat. It's probably someone that she actually legitimately cares about, because you're not probably supposed to have any attachment to being a red. But it's like, oh, if your sisters find out, you know what they'll do, because I guess Leandrin like fosters that anti-man sentiment amongst them. So like, oh, they'll kill him just to set an example to probably set you free from everything. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, because Moraine's like, oh, you want to talk about my secrets? I know about yours. Shut your mouth and don't say anything. And just turned away and left. I was like, ooh, put her in her place finally. It's like, oh, you want to have threats? I got you, sis, type of thing. So, but Egwene and Nynaeve were brought in front of her, and she's like, obviously Siwan isn't what they kind of expected. She's like, I'm not what you thought. And I love Egwene's kind of the only one that's really respectful, but Nynaeve, it's all kind of a lot of bark and bite in the situation. But I thought it was kind of like, you felt kind of bad for Egwene, because it's like, oh, I heard you're a powerful channeler, and Egwene's kind of smiling like, yeah, I am, but it's like Nynaeve, and she's like, wait, what? And it's like, oh, Egwene, thank you for bringing back all the rings of my daughters. I can't thank you enough. But Nynaeve is so hesitant and just so resistant to it all, because it's like, right, we're not going to be a part of this. And Siwan tells her straight up, because it's like, she knows, but she didn't go into her backstory, but we know better than anyone the hardship of like, right, you don't get a choice sometimes when it comes to destiny. The will doesn't care about what you want, it does what it will. The last battle is coming, and you can try and run, but like, you are drawn into this regardless. It isn't about what you want, this is going to happen regardless, and you just have to go along with what's been set before you. So, but like I said, Sawan like had to leave her dad, and I'm assuming she was never able to return to his side. So it's like it's not about what you want anymore. Like you want, you know, simply because she looked at Nynaeve, and it's like, I get it. Like you were hoping, like, you know, your life basically got turned upside down, and you were hoping you could go back. Because even Moraine brought this up to her last episode, like there is no going back. So they have to put on their performance. And it's this a really heartbreaking thing of just like, you know, Sawan having to say goodbye to Moraine because she doesn't know how long this will be. It's like, you'll come back when I say you can come home, basically. Because she has to give Moraine enough time to find out if Moraine succeeds, then she can come home. But who knows, like, if she'll come back alive, if even that, and how long it'll be. Like, I don't think there's the set limit is just purely you can come home when I tell you to come home. So but because she also has to present herself without favoritism, even though she does have her favorite, as she said before. But I thought it was so sweet, the stuff that she said. It's like, oh, clever as a spike, Sawan of the river, clever as a pike, strong as a tide. You know, just the thing her father said to her before, which the fact that she knows that shows you how close her and Sawan are. And it's like, right, if I turn my face from this oath, that basically the darkness will consume my soul. Now, I don't know if those are words or is that a literal spell of like, oh yeah, if you break this oath, the darkness will consume your soul. But it's like, yeah, when she leaves, basically it's like you have to face your sisters, and your sisters all have to face away from you, because it's like, right, it's a form of shunning, you know. It's like a ring the bell, shame type of thing, but it's like you're being shunned, and it's supposed to be representative of just the White Tower as a whole. And I think it speaks volumes that the Amaranth seat doesn't get up to turn her back. It's like, no, I have to watch you leave, but I guess that benefits Sawan, because it's like I don't actually have to turn my back. I can at least glance at you one last time as she's walking away. All her sisters turning it back onto it. Like, regardless of this is all for show and this is just for this, but it's still the thing of being banished from your home, even though it was your idea. It doesn't make it any easier. It's also the situation of she also doesn't know how long this will last. Like, you know, if things go right, maybe she'll be home soon, but even then it's like they probably have to keep up appearances and make it seem like she could probably not return immediately anyway. Like I said, not unless it's a thing of suggesting that the term of like, oh, like until I say you can come home, maybe that's not literal. Maybe it's not like a thing of like, maybe that's just in the speech and the words. I'd assume it means that the Amaranth seat decides when you get to come home, but still, this does leave the tower vulnerable to Leandrin and whatever she's up to. So we'll see how that plays out. But other than that, Moraine had made a deal with Loial, and he has things set up for her. So slowly everybody rolls in and shows up, and Moraine sends the horses off after everyone has their greetings and being reunited, and she tells them what it is. It's like, right, this thing back here, it's the ways. It's a portal. It's going to basically take us to where the dragon was caged by, where the Dark One was caged by the dragon last time. So this is do or die. One of you is the dragon, and we'll have to finish the Dark One while he's strong, because if we don't, everything will burn. Not what happened to your town will happen because the conversation had come up in the bath, you know, between that the blue Aes Sedai and Moraine about how did the Trollocs sneak up on Two Rivers without even you knowing? She's like, I have no idea. So there are some potential shifts and changes and stuff like that. There was even apparently, I'd left this detail out, because of the ferry situation, there was compensation made. Granted, the father won't receive it. The son will if he got there after the Trollocs died. I mean, but also, like, they needed that because without that, no one else could cross. But it was, like, once again, extenuating circumstances, because you need to make sure that the Trollocs couldn't follow them. But still, it was just interesting, hearing that conversation about, like, compensation, for that particular incident. But it's kind of do or die here, like, because if we fail and the Dark One rises, like, everything it will be risen from the ashes of the burned remains of everything you've ever loved. So we need to do this. So she opens the ways and everyone goes through. But Matt's the biggest reluctant person. And in that moment, as everyone goes through, Matt stays as the portal's closing. Now, either he came in last second, we'll find out next episode whether he came in last second or he stayed on the other side. Because in his mind, it's like, right, I'm not the right person for this. I can't be the dragon. I think that'd be the irony behind it if he actually was, especially in those circumstances where he's on the other side, and so that'll complicate things. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. Like, I get the feeling like he probably came in last second, but maybe not. But all you see is Moraine kind of look at him like that. I guess it's like, because she said, like, regardless of anything, the dagger fed on him the way it did because there was already darkness in him, which we know Matt's got his own complications. But in his mind, it's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back home. If this is the end, I'd rather spend it with my sisters than be here. But maybe it also has to deal with, like, that family. Like, he's like, oh, because Rand kept being like, oh, it was the Fade that did it. But now it's like, with everything going on with me, finding out about the dagger and everything, it's like, maybe it wasn't. I'm sure that's still rattling on inside of him as well. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I'm assuming there's going to be 8 episodes because that tends to be, to some extent, where Amazon Prime stuff, in particular its dramas, tend to lean that way. Like The Boys and Invincible did. But that's just only a handful. I'm sure that I know there's others that have as well. But regardless, I'm excited to see where all this takes us going forward to the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.